welcome back to Borderland Talk with Jim Budd. It's been been a few minutes. Was going through a lot of personal things and stuff, but then also just getting used to what we're seeing right now and what that means. On social media, a lot of times I will comment quickly when things come out, but when I do these videos and I want to talk to you about specific things or write about specific things, I like to take my time and think about it. A lot of the things that we're seeing today, obviously, bring in a lot of emotions, a lot of pain, a lot of anxiety. And I think it's important to think about what it is we want to say before we open our mouth sometimes. I'm not always good at that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not always good about that. But so just some house cleaning on Borderland Talk with Jim Bud. I keep trying to have guests, but everybody is so busy. It's not that people don't want to come on. It's just everybody is so busy, and then something happens, and somebody has to write a story, and this and that. It's just hard to get anybody. As you can imagine, most of the people that work in the field that I'm in are pretty darn busy right now. So, but originally I went to Substack instead of using my website. Number one, because my website is run through Wix, which is Israeli owned. So I'm letting that die. And then two, I just couldn't get that many people, that many traction. Nobody was seeing it, maybe 20 followers or something like that. And so that posting to social media wasn't doing much good. But I found that once I got onto Substack, because Substack obviously is making money off of my work, they help push you. And so that helps. And because Substack is geared towards writers, that has helped a lot. I do understand that there are issues with Substack. I do understand that they platform everybody, and that includes alt-right Nazis and so forth. And I understand that. At the same time, they're the only platform that I've been able to get my work out on consistently and consistently get followers and actually get people a lot of subscribers, thousands of subscribers. But, and importantly, my work is always free because I consider this to be important for you all to know these things. But for paid subscribers, I don't have a ton, but I have some, and it helps. So when I do these videos like I'm doing it right now, I prefer to use Zoom. Zoom costs like, I don't know, 150 a year. So that cost. The thing about Substack, before when I had my website, that cost like, I don't know, 400 something, 500 a year or something like that. Substack, it doesn't cost me anything. And then they, of course, get a percentage of any donations or anybody who subscribes through pay or is paying to subscribe. And I would like to go to Ghost. I would like to go to, I know there are other ones. I do know there are other ones. Ghost Cost. And I mean, right now, the majority of the stuff that I've done, and as far as purchasing water barrels for a year in the Sonoran Desert, assisting victims of the Border Patrol with the Border Patrol Victims Network and working with them. And the donations and the money from the book and stuff all of it has gone back to the cause and to migrants. I can't keep doing, Zoom and all this stuff and the research too, because like thousands and thousands of dollars of research when I'm doing the big casework and stuff like that. So Zoom, or I'm sorry, Substack. So Substack has helped a lot. And if I could somehow end up getting over to something else that isn't, problematic as that is, then I'd be willing to do that. But for right now, with the amount of stuff going on and everything, I'll be honest with you, it's pretty difficult. I just moved a lot of my stuff from my Wix website to Substack. And I didn't put everything on there because so a lot of people are really bad about reading dates. And if I put it on there, you're going to think this happened right now or today or something like that. So I don't want it. Everyone's overwhelmed as it is. I sure know everyone is tired of reading. I mean, I'm a reader. I love to read. I read a lot. I love research and stuff. Even I'm fucking tired of reading. I'm tired of it. Um, and so I know like the videos help a lot. These videos, number one, it makes you feel, I think, more secure because you see me actually physically talking to you. You see me pausing to think and stuff like that. You know, written things are very well thought out. Well, hopefully so. And they take more time and so forth. So I just wanted to be more real. I wanted you to be able to talk to somebody and ask questions. Certainly, I will be glad to ask questions. And one of the things I had said when I started Substack is I wanted to do maybe like a weekly show. It's hard for me to commit. I'll be honest with you. It's hard for me to be consistent weekly. You'll see some weeks I'll write 3 or 4 pieces, and then you won't hear from me for a week or two. Um, it just depends on what's going on because you have to understand at the same time while I'm writing and researching and thinking about these things, I'm advising reporters. I'm advising sometimes people in Congress, though not as much as I used to be. The Democrats haven't been calling or anything like that, like they did in the first time, in the first go around with Trump. Um, but my goal is to be more accessible, you know, and just plain talk about what we're seeing and what's going on. I will say that as a Border Patrol agent, I fortunately never had to do a mass deportation. One time, and I've never had to do employee raids or anything like that. I always worked in Campo on the border, or I was at San Diego Sector Intelligence Headquarters or at San Diego Sector Prosecutions or something like that. I've never done any employment raids or any ICE work, as they're called. And it is shocking to me to see this. Um, at the same time, it's pretty much how immigration enforcement is done. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. And I've written a couple pieces on, are these really ICE agents? Why are they masked? Those kinds of things. And so I want to kind of take a bunch of those pieces that I did and put it into this talk. Um, and today, it's just going to be me. And maybe a lot of these are just going to be me, and that's fine. You'll either like them or you won't. It doesn't matter to, it matters to me. I hope you like them. But I mean, quite honestly, doing these videos helps me mentally, quite honest. It helps me get this out. Um, I'm not young enough to be in the streets fighting right now. I've not been asked to come to the streets and fight. You know, it's important for you to understand that I do not enter immigrant and migrant communities to work on their behalf or anybody's behalf without being asked. Okay, so if you're wondering why you don't see me out in LA and doing all that other stuff, I've not been asked, but I also don't know that that would do any good. To be honest with you, Border Patrol agents don't know who I am. They all watch Fox News. The high ranking Border Patrol agents, yes, they know who I am. But the people in the field, the people that are out there doing the thuggery and everything, they don't know who I am. So it's not going to do any good. And it would just be, you know, why would I do that? Unless I'm just trying to get press or something like that. So if somebody invited me, when you see me do something like that, that's because I've been asked to do something like that. That's because I've been asked to come into the community. So one of the first things I want to talk about is there's a lot of confusion about who ICE is, what they are, what they do, and all this other stuff. There are three immigration enforcement agencies, basically. One, the Border Patrol, that's what I was. Those are the agents in green in between the ports of entry. Sometimes you will see them in camouflage. You'll see the special units of the Border Patrol called BORTAC, that is a SWAT team. They a lot of times will wear camouflage, and we're seeing that in Los Angeles right now. And ICE also has a team like that. CBP will have a team like that. So the three agencies are CBP, ICE, and Border Patrol. Border Patrol is what I was. They're in green. They work in between the ports of entry, trying to interdict anybody coming across or goods that are coming across, drugs, terrorists, whatever. Usually it's asylum seekers, quite honestly. The vast majority of people coming across commit less crime than the agents themselves. I've proven that over and over again for years since 2018. Border Patrol agents, as a population, commit more serious crimes than the migrants that they arrest every year when you look at the percentages. ICE agents, ICE is the smallest of the three enforcement agencies, and they basically, they kind of, someone said, oh, they have uniforms, and they don't officially have a uniform like the Border Patrol does, like the green uniform. But they sometimes will wear like windbreakers that say ICE, and then they'll all be wearing tan pants and blue shirts. So they have some kind of like, I guess you would call it casual uniform is what I would call it. So you see that sometimes in the Border Patrol, if you're on a special team, like the illegal critical incident teams would often wear red shirts, and then they would have a Border Patrol emblem on it, and then they wear jeans or tan pants. It's kind of a what I would call a casual uniform. ICE has jurisdiction in that they are supposed to be looking for the people with criminal backgrounds or the people who are migrants or immigrants that were arrested for a serious crime and are in jail. Their job is to go to the jails and make sure that once they're released, that decide whether the law requires them to be deported or not. CBP, Customs and Border Protection. Customs and Border Protection is the parent agency to Border Patrol. ICE is by itself. They're all under DHS. So ICE is over here, then you have CBP, and then underneath it you have Border Patrol. CBP's usually in blue. They're the people that you see at the ports. You see them whether you're talking the airports, the seaports, whether the land ports when you're trying to come back across. They are at the cargo ports where shipping containers and so forth come in and stuff like that. So these are the immigration enforcement agencies. These are the ones that are running the mass deportation. Now, everybody is calling them ICE, and I think that's good to do that. I think it's too confusing for people to be able, especially now that they're not wearing their normal uniforms. Sometimes you see the Border Patrol wearing their green, but a lot of times they're in camo or plain clothes. And I think we're at a point now where it doesn't really matter who they're with. You know, I mean, some of the videos we see, you'll see somebody with a bulletproof vest that says FBI on it. You'll see somebody with a bulletproof vest that says ATF. But the truth is that they're all doing immigration enforcement right now. And so to the people who are victims of this, the people who get caught up in this, who are not white, let's be honest, don't look like me, they're all la migra. So la migra, and that's how you say it, migra. If you can't roll your R, that's okay. They'll still understand you. La migra, you can say it like that. La migra. Migra is short for inmigración, and that is what the migrants call us. And it's all of us. So it doesn't matter if you're ICE, Border Patrol, or CBP. You're all migra. And in this instance, I would say in English, ICE has taken over. So because La Migra is Spanish, you can still yell ICE, and people will know what you're talking about. And because everybody is doing ICE's job for them, everybody is ICE. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it's like trying to parse the different types of Nazis. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's always a good Nazi in there, right? There are people that get caught up in these systems, obviously, like I did. That's not to say every single person in there believes with what's going on. Not everybody is in the cities doing this kind of stuff. And it tells me that a lot of this is voluntary because, like, when these details, we used to call them, or tours, they call them a lot now just because they have a lot of military. When these details come about, number one, agents love them because they make a shit ton of money on this stuff. There's all this extra pay for if you're forced to go on a detail or if you volunteer for a detail. So they're getting lots of money for doing this. We are paying them a fortune. And each one of those agents is making over $100,000 a year, just so you know. Um, and they're going to want agents with more time in to go and do that because they are dealing with the public and because they are dealing with citizens who are coming out and confronting them. They need agents who are going to not shy away from that. And that takes a while to develop that level of brutality. It takes a while. And when these details start, they'll ask for volunteers. Now, I have witnessed from San Diego to El Centro sector, and we know El Centro sector is up in LA running the raids. Their chief is up there running the raids. They just have military down here. Wendy Fry of Cal Matters reported that the Marine Corps is out at my old station at Campo. There are no Border Patrol agents. They've abandoned the border. I mean, there's some. If you go into the city like Imperial Beach, you'll see them because they want you to see them. But if you go out to where I worked in the mountains, and then I'm being told by my people in Arizona in the Sonoran Desert that there are people crossing. They're just crossing in the most desolate areas. And the Border Patrol, if you've noticed, once Donald Trump got into office, they stopped telling you what the gotaways are. There are always gotaways. Always gotaways. This border is so big and it is so difficult to traverse. You just really don't understand unless you go out there and spend a fair amount of time, quite frankly. The idea that you can put a bunch of young Marines out there and have them march up and down the border road a couple of times or go in vans to these different areas and patrol around aimlessly, those agents don't know how to sign cut. Sign cutting is how you track people or game through areas. You're hunting them. These Marines have never been to this area. It takes years to learn the trails out in Campo and the mountains to figure out where you're going. It takes sign cutting. Some people never get good at sign cutting. I taught it. I was pretty good at it. It takes a lot of patience, which seems odd for me because I am not a patient woman, but somehow I was good at that. I will say I'm more patient when I'm by myself. Let me put it that way. So they have only Marines out there who do not know how to sign cut, who do not know the area and do not know how to track. They are letting people go. And in Arizona and in California, strategically, the checkpoints are down. So you might see, like, for my old checkpoint, the Interstate 8 checkpoint, there's a little road called Old Highway 80 that parallels it that you can just circumvent the checkpoint. Back in my day, because back in my day, we set up the I-8 checkpoint, so I was there when it was nothing but a bus. Now it's like a whole city into itself. We didn't have a checkpoint on Old Highway 80. Now they do. And so what I realized is, so when the I-8 checkpoint is down, the Old Highway 80 checkpoint can be up or down. So there's always a way to get through. So one day I'm over there and both checkpoints are down. The next day I'm over there and I-8 is up and they're running it and checking people. But Old Highway 80 is not up. There's no point to even have one up if the other one's down. It's just, it's ridiculous. So, and then I went through the Highway 94 checkpoint, which is going around the mountains down the other way, the long way. So there's 3 ways, paved ways to get through. And Um, that checkpoint was being run by trainees, and trainees don't know anything. So, um, all of these senior guys, all of the rough guys that want to get into the fights and want to go and do the kidnappings, they're the ones that volunteer to go to LA. Okay. So I think that's why we're seeing, some of this, the brutality is as bad as it is, quite honestly, because they want you to see it. That's what they want. And that's one of the reasons why they're wearing the mask. They're claiming that it's because they're getting doxxed and all this other stuff, but the truth is these agencies constantly lie. They'll say, "Oh, our agents are getting injured." They said that during the first Trump administration in Portland during the Black Lives Matter protests. They're like, "Oh, 150 agents were injured and this and that," but they never give you the documentation of it. At the same time as they're doing these raids, the very first raid done by Chief Bovino of El Centro in LA to impress Trump, he claimed that every single person he arrested was a violent criminal and had a violent criminal record. And they even gave a list like, this man raped an 8-year-old child and this person did this and blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to the press about it and I said, that's just not possible. I mean, I'm looking at the videotapes and they keep saying these are targeted enforcements, but they're not, because I can tell they're not, because I know what that looks like. And they're standing outside of an AM PM just saying to everybody who comes out with their morning coffee, what country are you a citizen? Do you have your papers? Or, I mean, so that's not targeted. And sure enough, once they pushed him on it, they found out that only one person had a prior criminal record, and 76, 77 other people had not even an immigration record, meaning they had not even been caught by La Migra trying to enter illegally. So that's not targeted. That is just a raid for the sake of doing a raid. But the lying afterwards is commonplace. You are trained to lie, because the majority of the people that we deal with in immigration enforcement are migrants, and they really do not have the financial means to express their rights. Let's put it that way. They do not have the financial means to intimidate Border Patrol agents and ICE agents with attorneys. They don't. They will get deported immediately. And the migrants know this, and the agents know this. One of the questions that people ask me more than anything is, are these really federal agents, whether they're ICE or Border Patrol or anybody else? Yes, they are really federal agents. I have seen maybe 2 videos of people who look like bounty hunters. And I have had a report from immigration defenders of one of their clients possibly being kidnapped by bounty hunters. I expect that once the money starts flowing from this BBB bill, that we are going to see more of that. That's when you're going to start seeing, probably, if anybody gets deputized, it's not going to be done federally. It will be done through your local sheriffs. The reason why that is because ICE, the federal government, is not going to want to have the liability of deputizing people when they could force their local sheriffs to deputize people, because the sheriffs are going to get a cut of that money if they do that. So they have a cause and a reason to do that. I'm not saying they have done it. I haven't seen it yet, but that is what we expect to happen from a lot of these sheriffs that call themselves constitutional sheriffs. If you want to learn more about that, I suggest you follow Jessica Pishko on Blue Sky or Substack. She is she's the PhD who knows everything about the constitutional sheriffs, and she has a book out right now too, I believe. So give that a read if you want. So a lot of the the questions come from, number one, it feels like they couldn't have this many agents. Number one, yeah, they do. One of the reasons why you think that they shouldn't have these many federal agents is because they always seem like they're overwhelmed on the border. And you're assuming that they're still down here guarding the border. They are not. It's pretty easy to cross right now. They're just not admitting it. And the press is not reporting it. Why is the press not reporting it? Well, because the mainstream media and the liberal press don't ever come down here. And they only take the media that they glom off of the right-wing media. So where is the right-wing media that was down here on the border during the Biden administration filming everything going, look, these migrants are invading, these migrants are invading. Well, they were doing that to create the optics, to make you think that there was an invasion. But now they are embedded with the Border Patrol and ICE and roaming around the cities filming what they're doing there. So when the government tells you, well, first of all, when the government tells you that the Border Patrol last month released 0 illegal immigrants, I'm using their words, illegal immigrants into the country, and Donald Trump was saying that, the Border Patrol never, CBP never releases illegal immigrants into the country. If you are released from CBP or Border Patrol custody into the country, then you have passed your inspections and you are not, as they say, illegal, undocumented. You are literally documented. We document you before you walk out the door. So that's just bullshit. And like I said, there are always gotaways. There are always people crossing. They're just crossing where you're not seeing them. In the past, I always say this to you, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but in the past, in the 90s, when they started Operation Gatekeeper and stuff, when Clinton wanted to make Operation Gatekeeper look like a success and it wasn't working because deterrence doesn't work, because if deterrence worked, it would have worked fucking 30 years ago or 25 years ago or 20 or 15 or 10. In the past, we have manipulated those numbers. If the president wanted to make it look like there were less people crossing because his policies were effective, and we just didn't count everybody we caught. We just didn't process everybody we caught. We kicked them back. In my station, that's how they did it in Imperial Beach. At my station, when President Clinton got mad that we were finding so many dead bodies, and those were increasing, they ordered us not to go north of the first 2-lane highway, Highway 94 in Campo. And they did that because most of the bodies are north of that between, so it goes border, say we go, trying to look into the screen, it goes border, and then you have Highway 94, and then a vast expanse of mountains and valleys before you get to Interstate 8, 6 miles up. That's where most of the bodies are, or further north of I-8. Can't go there anymore. Can't count what you don't find, can you? So the idea that somehow ICE, Border Patrol, ICE is telling the truth about the number of agents who are getting doxxed, or the number of agents who are getting injured, or the number of agents, you know, this and that. You got to make them prove this stuff. And the media doesn't ever do it. They just take what they say. They said 150 of their agents were injured. That's why they fought back. That's why they threw tear gas. But they never prove it. And we lie. We lie. We've been ordered to lie. I have a case where Border Patrol agents had stopped a known informant. He had marijuana on it, and they seized it. The amount of marijuana that was put in the narrative that they supposedly seized, there was discrepancy. So they're accusing these agents of possibly taking some of the marijuana as what was going on. And in court, the U.S. prosecutors ended up dropping the case because the agents proved that they were told lots of times, and they were trained to lie, and to lie in their court documents. Do you think that they got off? They did. They did because we are trained to lie. We are trained to lie. And we lie all the time, especially the Border Patrol and DHS and all of them. So, how many times did they tell you they weren't targeting Muslims? And they were. They tell you right now that they're not doing any, they're not beating anybody, they're not doing it. And they are. We see that they are. How many times do people have to come forward and say that this happened to me and this happened to me and this happened to me? And I mean, at what point is the media going to finally start to say these agents are out of control? I don't know. I don't know when that's going to be. But the idea that maybe there's not enough agents to do all of this, the three immigration enforcement agencies, ICE, Border Patrol, and CBP, they have together 60,000 agents. Yeah. And that's not even including all of the private law enforcement that they then hire on the side for transportation, for detentions. And you see some of those people in the courthouses and things like that assisting the ICE agents and Border Patrol agents and CBP. So we're talking about 60,000 plus. And then at the same time, there are 130 federal agencies that have a contingent of law enforcement within them. That's insane. I mean, if we just count the ATF, FBI, DEA, those groups, even the IRS, you're talking about 80,000. Now add to it your sheriffs, because they're getting paid to keep migrants in their jails. Add to it your police department, because they have contracted what is called a 287G contract with ICE, which means that when they stop people for traffic violation or whatever, hey, you're speeding, got to give you a ticket. Yep, sucks, whatever, blah, 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 sign it, da, da, da. By the way, what country are you a citizen of? You get money for that. So they get money also for working overtime on immigration. So essentially what ICE has done is they've made everybody is ICE. You see what I'm saying? So anybody that calls in on brown people, y'all fucking ICE too. So anybody that supports these people, whether it's selling them weapons, selling them uniforms, being the contractors to build these detention facilities, these concentration camps, which I agree is what they are. Alligator Alcatraz, all this stuff. Who's providing the food? Who's providing the medical care? All this stuff. All of you, if you're making money off of this, you're ICE. You're part of the problem. Okay? So now add to the law enforcement aspect of it, the National Guard and the Marines. It's insane. I mean, we're looking at over 100,000 strong, if not way more. And so far, nobody's said no. The military is out there acting like the Border Patrol. Border Patrol right now, just south of me in the mountains, southeast of me, as I'm talking to you. That completely violates the Posse Comitatus Act, which says that the military is not to do civilian policing. So they have more than enough people to do this. So stop saying that there's no way. The other thing some of you say to me is they're not trained, they don't look like real federal agents. You think that because you have been watching too many movies. You think that because you have been watching too much of their propaganda, where you see these big beefy guys walking around, and there are a lot of guys like that in those agencies. There are a lot of women like that. Not a lot, but there are. And the truth is, in these agencies, and even in the Border Patrol, which is the most physically demanding and the hardest to get through, even in the Border Patrol, you only have to pass that physical fitness test once, okay? And then after that, they don't care how fat you get. They really don't. There is no physical fitness standard that you have to meet. So when you see these agents, whether they're ICE or CBP or Border Patrol, and they've got these vests that seem to cover like this tiny little spot because they're so fat, they're real agents. I mean, I could be a Border Patrol agent right now. I passed the academy in 1995, so I could still be, I'm 54, I could still be a Border Patrol agent right now had I not quit. And I could look like this, and I would still be a Border Patrol agent. The majority of Border Patrol agents, quite honestly, have mom and dad bods like everybody else. There's a few that are hard bodies that work out like crazy and do the steroids and all that. That's Sportac and Borstar. Um, but yeah, what you're seeing is normal. And when you say, oh, they can't be trained like that, well, you're hearing and seeing videos of where they show you how they train, and they make it look like it's SEAL Team 6 or some shit like that, but that's not really how it is. Um, Special units train constantly, but regular Border Patrol agents don't. And one of the ways that you can tell the difference between like Border Patrol agents with prior military versus ones that don't are that the prior military will wear tan boots. That was a gift given to the military to get more military in the Border Patrol because in the past you only could wear black boots. So when you see agents with black boots, they're like me, only Border Patrol. When you see agents with tan boots, they're prior military. That's what that means. That came from the Middle East. And so that is why you see that. The other question I'm getting a lot of is, are these January Sixers that have been pardoned, are they militia? Are they vigilantes? So every year there are people who, predominantly men, not always, but predominantly men, every year there's somebody who tries to mimic a Border Patrol agent, an ICE agent, a police agent, a sheriff. There are perverts everywhere. And quite frankly, when you see the agency behaving like this and you recognize that they're just getting away with violating people's rights and there's not much people can do, predators go, ha ha. They see a weakness. That's why they always go to like, predators will always, the child predators will always like, I volunteer at the YMCA or I volunteer at church and this and that. That's why they're always around that kind of stuff. So they're recognizing the brutality of the agencies they're seeing and they're attracted to it. But more than anything, they are recognizing the vulnerable positions that people are in and taking advantage of it. And this happens quite a lot. This even happens to migrants who are seeking attorneys. People will act like they're attorneys and get them to give them money and promise them that they can get them a card or a legal way in and things like this. This happens all the time. Is it happening more with ICE? I can't say if it's happening more. It is being reported more. But I think overall, probably it is happening a little bit more. But like I said, because people recognize that when those people are being discovered impersonating ICE agents to either get revenge on somebody that they're mad at, or to get a woman in a car so they can sexually assault her, then those people are being arrested and they are being handled within the court system. And because of who they are, the court system will handle them and they will go to jail. If they were a cop, they'd get away with it. But if you're acting like you're a cop and you're not a cop, you're not going to get away with that. I have yet to see any militia with these agencies that are doing the kidnappings and so forth. The militia are still down here on the border. Not as much high profile things because they can't make money off of it. I think what they're probably doing with the militia is what I saw them doing with the militia down here the last 8-10 years. So they use the militia as intelligence. They use the militia for surveillance, and they use the militia for snitches. If there are any January 6 people or stuff like that, I have no idea yet. We haven't seen it yet. And like I said, I think once this money comes on and as we keep seeing things escalate, we're eventually going to get there. We'll eventually get there. And it might be happening already. I just have not seen enough evidence of it. Okay. I don't want to things are scary enough as it is. I don't want to put stuff out there that's going to make matters worse. Okay. Um, so right now, I'm still going to be telling you that these agents that you're seeing, the vast majority of them are actually ICE, are actually federal agents. Somebody said, well, how do we know, what if they do, what if they do deputize militia leaders? What are we going to do then? Well, if they deputize them, then that kind of means that they're covered by the sheriff. So it's the same thing of if they're really cops. If they deputize them, then I think that they pretty much take on all the liabilities and all the protections of what that sheriff has, I would think. I'm not saying you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. We're at a place right now where you're going to have to decide what you're going to do. I just want you all to have the correct information, okay? I want you to have the most accurate, up-to-date information that you can have. A good example of this, by the way, now that we've finished talking about, yeah, they're pretty much all federal agents. One of the things that I've been seeing go around is people, and I see people saying, in the videos, I'm seeing in the videos, hearing in the videos, what's your name and badge number? They're never going to give you their name. That's why they have their name plates taken off. And when you ask a Border Patrol agent for their badge number, in immigration, you don't have badge numbers. There's nothing on the back of the badge. It might be like a serial number or something, but there's nothing on the back of the badge. There's nothing on the front of the badge, like regular cops have. A lot of regular cops do. I can't say they all do. We have what's called star numbers or call signs. I've seen it said both ways. I think back in my day, we called it star number. So it depends on your rank and what station you're at. I was at Campo, so our signal was Charlie. So it would be C-178 was mine. I think I started out, I was Charlie 226 when I was a young agent. And then when I became a senior patrol agent, then you get jumped to the 100s, at least at my station. That's how we did it. They move them around sometimes because they don't want you to have the same star number for too long, because in case people could listen to your radio. Back in my day, they could listen to the radio. I can't now because it's encrypted. But so my star number, my last star number was Charlie 178. So if I'm out doing that and you ask me my badge number, I'll be like, I don't have a badge number. My last name's Bud, Charlie 178. At the same time, they know what you mean when you say, give me your badge number. And so when you see people say, give me your badge number, give me your badge number, and they just look at them. I would like to think it's because, well, I don't have a badge number, but that's not, they know what you mean. And they know that you mean their call sign, or what are you known for? What's your shorthand, right? Over the radio. And I don't know that would help you to know that anymore, because I don't think they're going to answer you. I think it's going to be, if you come up to me and like say I'm doing this, I'm still just going to sit there silently and not say anything. So when we get to the mask, people say, why are they wearing masks? And at first I thought, well, they don't want to be doxxed and they're ashamed of what they're doing. I think that's true of some of the agents, just a small amount. You could see a little bit of fear in their eyes, especially the female agents. You can see that some of the smaller male agents, the Latinos, you can see like they're questioning what they're doing and stuff. Let me put it this way. It's not to say that these agencies were not always racist and brutal. They have always been. Our immigration system is built on the backs of indigenous and Black slaves. Our immigration system is built on taking over land and destroying the lives of the Latino population that lived here before us. That is everything that our laws are based on, everything that those agencies are based on, everything that their culture, their core values is based on that. So when I talk about the old patrol prior to 9/11 and the new patrol after 9/11, in the old patrol, they didn't so much care what our politics were. We really didn't talk about politics that much. But my understanding is that after 9/11, they started to screen very heavily for ideological leanings. And they didn't come right out and do it. But I have noticed the amount of really extremely right-wing religious people have been allowed to join the Border Patrol and some of those other agencies. And to the point that we have high-ranking agents who believe a lot of this QAnon stuff. We have some high-ranking agents who are really MAGA that believe some really crazy shit. And the majority of the agents are hired right out of high school without any kind of life experience, any kind of military or things like that. It's a lot of power and a lot of money to be given at 18 years of age. Especially how you see it now, it's just completely unfettered power. And I think one of the things that I find so interesting in listening to the comments and listening to the media and just seeing what people post is they can't do this. They need to have a warrant. In immigration policing, you do not need a warrant if you are within 25 miles of the border. Then immigration agents can come on your property and go through your barns and your outdoor buildings. They can't come in your house. That's the only thing they can't do. They're not supposed to be able to come into your house without a warrant. That's why you see them push themselves in there, which should be charged as breaking and entering, quite honestly. But at any rate, you don't need a warrant, an arrest warrant, to stop somebody and ask them what their immigration status is. Like I said, if we're going to be on your property searching, you have to be within 25 miles of any land or sea border, and then we can come on there and we don't have to have a warrant. We can climb all over your property, in your barns, all that other stuff, and do whatever we want. If we want to get into your car, if we want to get into your house, then we need a warrant. So what they're doing in LA, quite frankly, they're right by the ocean. They're as long as they're within 25 miles. But even if they're not, because someone's alienage cannot be determined by looking at them, immigration agents are required to walk up to you and do an inspection and ask you what your citizenship is. And they could do that to anybody. They don't have to have a warrant to ask you a question. So they can do that to anybody. So you can scream, "Where's your warrant?" all you want. They are legally not required to have a warrant. I think one of the other interesting things that people keep saying is you can't just walk around and ask every brown person if they're a United States citizen. Yes, you can, according to the law in immigration. And if you can't, that's what the whole system's been based on for 100 years. The Supreme Court even decided that in Martinez Fuerte that because most of the work is done so close to the border, of course, we're going to be asking Latinos. I don't agree with that, but that's what the law says. So racial profiling is used in immigration. And when DHS says, "How dare you? This is so rude and our agents aren't racist," they're full of shit. They know damn well that we racially profile. We are trained to racially profile. Trained. They won't come right out and say it. They won't come right out and say, There's a Latino, there's a brown guy, go get him. They won't say that. I mean, when I was an Asian, I asked, how do I tell the difference between half of my classmates who look like the people you're telling me to go get? And you're telling me to go get them just based off of looks. And they would say, well, you'll just know. What they meant was I was working way out in the mountains. There's kind of no reason for people to be out there in the middle of nowhere. Plus, we were tracking them. But what they're doing now, where they're going to cities and just looking at everybody and just saying, you, they can do that. They can do that. And maybe you're saying to yourself, yeah, but that's racial profiling and it shouldn't be happening. Okay, I agree with that. Especially now that we have all different sorts of people coming to our border, not just, Ukrainians, Russia, all sorts of people, not just brown people. I agree with that. But that's not what the law is. And at the same time, even if it was the law, these agents are violating the law by the way the use of force that they're using. And when somebody says, no, I'm a U.S. citizen, and they just grab them and tell them they're lying and throw them on the ground kind of thing, they're using this use of force and getting away with it. And that shouldn't happen. And we need to document and we need to do something about it. But guess what? The courts are going to let them go. What I'm getting at is this system that you all are rightly so upset and what you are seeing and the violence and everything that you're seeing. And of course, rightly upset, justifiably upset. That is border policing. That is immigration policing. That has been done and not broadcast to you for 100 years, since we've had our borders. 100 years, well, a little over 100 years, but since we've had immigration enforcement agencies, 100 years. What I see Border Patrol agents doing and the violence and how they treat people, and people are like, you shouldn't treat them so rough and you shouldn't do this and blah, 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 blah. So think back on all the times that you've heard the immigration rights groups say, we found these cases, and they put out these big reports of women claiming that they're being raped. Remember, in Donald Trump's first presidency, children were dying in custody. Rotten food being thrown at them, moldy food being thrown at them, children dying. I said children dying in custody. Other people dying in custody. Women talking about being sexually assaulted. Bunch of children claiming that they were sexually assaulted, and nothing ever happens with any of this. Nothing ever happens because the justice system, the government, Americans, we all say they crossed illegally. It wouldn't have happened to them if they hadn't come here. They're undocumented, so they're probably just saying that they're trying to get money. They're this or that and blah blah blah. But those reports and those complaints have been consistent for decades. Consistent. And they have been consistently ignored. So what you're seeing in your town is what we've been living with down here. And I say we, I'm not exposed to it, but because I'm white, but the Latinos will tell you, oh yeah, this is border policing. And so what you're seeing is the way that Border Patrol specifically, and how violent we are and how brutal we are, you're seeing that go to ICE, you're seeing that go to CBP. And now we have FBI, FBI, ATF, DEA, IRS. Now they're working with us, right? And Border Patrol is the lead on this, by the way. It's not ICE. It's actually Border Patrol is leading and directing how to do this. Donald Trump has said that multiple times. The reason why that is the Border Patrol is dedicated to Donald Trump. Um, there are a few agents now that don't know what they're getting into. And certainly those who are deciding to join in this moment, these are people who are looking at the violence and they like what they see. So what we're going to see is this is going to hit us like in the next decade. We're going to see lots of immigration enforcement agents committing horrible, horrible crimes, or agents with crimes in their past that were allowed to join. The immigration agencies will hire people who have committed crimes like rape. I have examples of it. And gosh darn it, who would know that they would spend their whole careers raping children and all that other stuff. So you have poor hiring standards. They're really young. They're given a lot of power really fast. At the same time, they've been telling you that they were overwhelmed when they were not, and they were lying. So they have way more people than they actually need, which is they were building for this day versus the reality of what was going on. And then just the culture of the agency itself, to sit there and think that these people are not acting like trained federal agency agents, to sit there and think that this is not what federal agents actually do and look like, at least in the immigration agencies, you are misinformed and just ignorant about it. It is exactly how we behave. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to leave. I mean, seriously. So then I guess I want to talk to you a little bit about what are the things, how can you fight back against ICE? The other day, I think I put up a thread of different types of ways to resist ICE that we could see worked on video. One was in, I believe it was in Compton, so that's LA. And what happened in that little neighborhood was when ICE showed up, they jumped on top of their cars and they had their assault rifles in their hands. It looked like they were in Fallujah or something. It was really gross. But the reason why ICE backed off and you saw fire trucks and police pushing ICE cars back and they left because the local cops who were called in to protect ICE turned around and realized they were outnumbered by citizens who were not going to take that shit. ICE will back down if they do not have real police protection. And let me clarify that. When I say real police, when we say real police on the border, what we're meaning is our peace officers. We're not saying they're not real ICE agents. We're just saying they're not peace officers. So they don't have the authority to arrest us for not having a turn signal. They don't have the authority to stop us for jaywalking or whatever, like real police do. So when we say they're not real police, that's what we mean. So ICE will back off if they do not have real police backup from sheriffs, state troopers, and police departments. And the way that they are getting that backup is they are calling your local sheriffs and police departments and troopers, state troopers, and saying, we are trying to conduct a criminal warrant, criminal fugitive warrant, a criminal warrant, and we need backup. But they are not required by law to produce that warrant to the police to prove what they are doing. And the police are coming down and then whether justifying that and knowing that they're not really doing anything or they're ignorant of the fact. But the fact is they're using ICE for they're using the regular police for protection. So if your police feel overwhelmed, they'll tell ICE to go away if there are too many citizens. If they feel like they can handle y'all, then they're going to handle y'all. And you all need to put extreme pressure on your city councils, on your county boards or whatever they're called to get out of ICE contracts to tell your local law enforcement that they cannot take money from the federal government. The reason why they have all this military or the militarized equipment, the reason why they have all these uniforms that look like they're out of the Middle East and fighting terrorists and stuff, is they're all getting that from DHS and stuff. We need to create that separation that used to exist. And unfortunately, with this new budget bill, it just makes it even deeper and deeper. The feds are going to be even deeper involved in controlling your local police. That's what they have to do now, is they have to control your police, your peace officers, because they realize at some point y'all can split them apart. That's what you need to be doing. You need to split them apart. You need to put pressure on them to say, you are not like the immigration police. You need to protect your community and stop allowing them to come and attack your community. Otherwise, you're just all ICE. They're just all ICE, right? I think the last thing I want to talk about is the show that happened in the park in LA. When I saw it, I immediately realized it was a PR campaign, a public relations campaign. It was meant to make them look tough. They had their horses all geared up like they were going to fight. They had protectors over the horses' eyes, and they had armor on the horses' legs and stuff like that. So they were looking for a fight. They did that on purpose. They brought the cameras. They had I think, news helicopters, and you'll probably see videos coming out about it soon. There's one thing about this El Centro chief that is running the LA thing that is really interesting. He loves spectacle. He loves spectacle as much as Donald Trump does. And so he creates these spectacles. So it's not a coincidence that Chief Bovino of El Centro, on the day that the big fires happened in the Palisades, he decided to do that first raid in Kern County, which is right next door, some of the other counties too. The Border Patrol, whenever there's a flood or something that happens in a red state, they go and help. Like in Texas, they're going to help as much as they can. They love to do that because they can get good photos and stuff like that. It makes people feel good. It makes the agents, honestly, it does. It makes the agents feel good to save people. It always feels good when you can help people. So why did Chief Bovino take all his agents and just go to where the fires are and start an immigration raid while fires are going on, right? Why did he do that? Because they fucking hate California. And he did it to slap them in the face. So then at the same time, this raid, it wasn't a raid, it was a PR campaign in the park with the horses and everything. It was done on the 6-month anniversary of that. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence. And so then they sit there and they're like, we did it because it's an MS-13 stronghold. Well, if it was an MS-13 stronghold, he would have been shot at. Notice that nobody's coming forward saying, oh, we got us an MS-13 guy. This is who we're after. Is MS-13 coming into your schools? Is MS-13 coming into your churches? Is MS-13 coming into your place of work? Are they in Walmart tasing a father? No, actually, it's ICE. ICE is the one that is terrorizing us, not MS-13. ICE is the one that is bringing terror to everybody. And the reason why they're doing this out in the open is because they want you all to be afraid, because this is all coming for us sooner or later. So I think if you follow me, you probably know that already. This isn't to say that people aren't being injured and hurt by ICE. They are. But at the same time, there's this spectacle going on. Did you see how many officers that was? At least making over 100,000 a year. You could average it to be about 100,000 a year. And they got 0 arrests. And look what they did. And was it like 2 or 3 hours it took them to do that or whatever? And then they left. And they got nothing. They spent a shit ton of your money, our money. we're just going to see more and more of this. It's going to get worse and worse. But arguing about whether or not somebody is officially ICE or not, it doesn't really matter anymore. If you're driving, you know, if you're driving migrants to the detention center, you're as big a part of the problem as the agents doing the other stuff. And people are going to make big money off of this. People are really excited about these camps and making big money off of it. But we'll say on a personal level, I'm really ashamed to, and I've said this quite a few times, I'm ashamed to ever worn that uniform, but especially now, just really like, I think this mass deportation and watching what has happened has really radicalized me in a lot of ways. All right, so if you have any questions or you want me to talk about certain things, long form like this, and it maybe at some point maybe do a live, although I don't know how that will go. I'd probably have to have a moderator if I did a live. But I kind of like this more casual thing. You know, I do a lot of these reports where I'm talking about specific case, set teams, and this and that. But I think a lot of these where I'm just talking openly without a script, just have some ideas written down that I want to talk about and just kind of flow through it. I think these might help a lot of you, and certainly help a lot of you with, it doesn't have a lot of technical terms. It's stuff that you can understand and things like that. And so let me know. Let me know what you think of this. I'll edit this and probably get it out today. And let me know. Thanks.